Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here, because today we're going to upgrade your personal operating system. If you've ever felt like your computer is somehow slowing you down, or if you've ever been totally baffled by the alphabet soup of tech jargon floating around out there, you are in the exact right place. This is your Digital Bootcamp. By the time we wrap up, you're going to transform into a highly confident digital navigator. You'll be fully equipped to work faster, smarter, and with a whole lot more understanding of these machines we stare at every single day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's the roadmap for our bootcamp today. First, an introduction to digital efficiency. Second, essential and advanced shortcuts. Third, decoding hardware and networks. And finally, software and emerging tech. But before we get to all that good stuff, I really want you to ask yourself this question. How much of your life is wasted reaching for the mouse? Seriously, think about it for a second. The microseconds you spend moving your hand off the keyboard, dragging that cursor across the screen, trying to pinpoint some tiny X or a little menu button, and then moving your hand back, well, those seconds compound into minutes, hours, and eventually days over a lifetime. It is a massive, massive drain on your daily productivity.
And that brings us to Section 1, Introduction to Digital Efficiency, or as I like to call it, the why.
True computer fluency, the kind that makes you look like a hacker in a movie, it doesn't actually start with complex coding. It literally starts with the physical mastery of your keys. Computer shortcut keys improve your efficiency by minimizing mouse usage and accelerating those routine navigation tasks. Moving away from the mouse isn't just some cool party trick. It fundamentally accelerates how quickly your brain can execute an action on screen. The whole goal is to close the gap between your thought, like, oh, I need to copy this text, and the computer actually doing it. And your keyboard, that's your express lane to make it happen. Moving right along to Section 2, Essential and Advanced Keyboard Shortcuts. Basically, the how-to. Let's rapidly rattle through the Windows basics. You probably already know Ctrl+C for copy and Ctrl+V for paste. I mean, these are the absolute foundational building blocks of digital work. But let's look a little further down. If you press the Windows key +D, it instantly minimizes everything and shows your desktop. It's absolutely perfect for instantly hiding your screen when someone walks up behind you and you're maybe doing a little online shopping on company time. Then there's Windows +L, which instantly locks your computer when you step away for a coffee, and Windows +E pops open your file explorer without having to hunt around for that little folder icon. It's simple, it's fast, and it is incredibly effective. Now let's look at your browsers and documents. Ctrl+T pops open a new tab, sure, but the real hero here is the second one, Ctrl+Shift+T. This is an absolute lifesaver. If you accidentally close a vital research tab, you do not need to dig through your browsing history. You just hit Ctrl+Shift+T and it instantly resurrects your closed tab right from the digital graveyard. In your documents, Ctrl+B bolds your text and Ctrl+S saves it. Honestly, getting into the habit of compulsively tapping Ctrl+S will save you from unimaginable heartbreak when a program inevitably crashes.
And speaking of crashes, let's look at how this builds into advanced troubleshooting. Imagine your app is completely frozen. You're furiously clicking the red X and literally nothing is happening. Stop clicking. Instead, try this sequence. Step 1. Hit Ctrl+Shift+S. This bypasses everything and directly opens up your task manager. Step 2. Use your arrow keys to select that frozen application. Step 3. Hit Alt+F4, which is the master command for closing an active window. It effectively kills the stubborn program swiftly and totally avoids all that clicking frustration.
Now, what's really interesting about this next transition is that physical shortcuts are really just half the battle. Mastering computer acronyms is highly practical for navigating tech specs, troubleshooting your devices, and just understanding general computing. To truly take control of your digital life, you have to be able to speak the language of the machine.
Which perfectly sets up Section 3, Decoding Hardware and Networks, the physical machine. Let's start right inside the computer. RAM, or Random Access Memory, versus ROM, Read-Only Memory. Honestly, the easiest way to understand this is to picture a physical office desk. RAM is the surface of the desk itself. It's your active, temporary workspace. The bigger the desk, the more documents you can have open at once without things slowing down or getting cluttered. But the catch is, when you turn the computer off, that desk gets wiped totally clean. ROM, on the other hand, is like a locked, fireproof safe sitting under the desk. It holds the permanent, foundational instructions the computer needs just to exist. Those instructions, they can't be easily changed or wiped away.
To continue that same office analogy, your storage drives are your permanent filing cabinets. We've got HDD, hard disk drive, and SSD, solid state drive. Both of these permanently store your data, unlike RAM.
The big difference is the technology under the hood. An HDD uses an older mechanical spinning disk to read and write data, whereas a modern SSD does it using flash memory with absolutely zero moving parts. This means SSDs are way faster, much quieter, and significantly less likely to break if you accidentally drop your laptop.
Okay, here are some more foundational hardware acronyms that you probably see every single day. The CPU, or Central Processing Unit, is the primary brain of the computer doing all the core calculations. The GPU, the Graphics Processing Unit, is a specialized brain that handles all the visual heavy lifting for your screens, which is absolutely crucial if you're into video editing or gaming. USB stands for Universal Serial Bus, and that's the standard port for plugging almost anything in. And those crisp screens you're staring at, they are likely LCDs, liquid crystal displays, and they're often backlit by LEDs, which are light-emitting diodes.
Actually, I want to slow down for just a second on this one. BIOS. Basic Input-Output System. You might literally never see this unless you're digging deep into your system settings, but it's incredibly important. The BIOS is the fundamental firmware that wakes up all that hardware we just talked about, the RAM, the CPU, the storage, the moment you press the power button. It makes sure they're all ready to talk to each other before your operating system even begins to load.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we scale up from a single machine to a whole network. Let's look at LAN versus WAN. A LAN is a local area network. Think of the router in your home or your office. It connects your phone, your TV, and your laptop together in one single physical space. A WAN, though, is a wide area network. This connects those local networks across vast distances. We're talking across cities, countries, or the entire globe. In fact, the internet itself is the ultimate WAN.
Now, when you are sending your personal data out onto that massive public wide area network, you often want some privacy. And that is exactly where a VPN, a virtual private network, comes in. Why does this matter? Well, because a VPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel for your data to travel through over those public connections. It hides your identity and secures your information from anyone who might be snooping around on the network, like when you're using public Wi-Fi at a local coffee shop.
Let's rapidly decode just a few more daily internet acronyms. I mean, we all rely on Wi-Fi, which actually stands for Wireless Fidelity, to connect to our ISP, our internet service provider. When you type in a URL, a Uniform Resource Locator, you are looking for a specific address on the WWW, the World Wide Web. The DNS, or domain name system, acts exactly like the Internet's phone book, translating that easy-to-read URL into a numerical IP, or Internet Protocol, address so the computers can actually find each other. We use these terms constantly, and it's just really empowering to finally know what those letters stand for.
All right, final stretch. Section 4, Software and Emerging Tech, or the Digital Frontier.
Let's group these software basics together. Your OS, or operating system, like Windows or Mac OS, is the main platform you use to run everything else. You interact with it using a GUI, a graphical user interface. That just means you click on icons and windows instead of having to type out lines of code. When you browse the web, HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, is what's used to actually build the structure of those web pages, while HTTP and HTTPS, which is the secure version, are the protocols used to safely transfer those pages from the server right to your screen. We also all use PDFs, portable document formats, for sharing fixed documents, and businesses use SQL, Structured Query Language, to manage their massive databases.
So, the crucial point here is understanding how all these different pieces of software actually communicate with one another. And that happens through an API, an application programming interface. Think of an API as an invisible bridge, or maybe a digital waiter. When you use a weather app on your phone obviously doesn't hold all the global weather data. The app's API sends a request to a massive weather database, grabs the data, and brings it seamlessly back to your screen. It basically allows two completely different software programs to talk to each other without missing a single beat.
Finally, let's take a quick look at the emerging tech landscape. It's really helpful to group these into two main categories. On one side, we have AI, artificial intelligence, and ML, machine learning. These are all about computers learning to process data intelligently, recognizing patterns, making decisions, and even generating content based on massive data sets. On the flip side, we have VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality. These are all about altering our visual environment and our human experience. VR puts you into a completely closed digital world, while AR overlays digital elements onto the real world around you, sort of like a heads-up display.
Wow, we have covered an enormous amount of ground in this explainer. We've moved all the way from the physical speed of the keyboard right to the frontiers of artificial intelligence. So I want to leave you with one final provocative question. Which shortcut or acronym will you use today to instantly upgrade your digital life? Don't try to memorize the whole shebang at once. Just pick one hotkey, maybe it's Control-Shift-T to rescue those closed tabs, or challenge yourself to spot a USB or an LCD out in the wild today. Apply just one new piece of knowledge immediately, and watch how it begins to totally transform the way you navigate your digital world. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep mastering your tools.